What's up, YouTube? It's your buddy Choppadon coming at you with another episode of DFS Diary or Chop Talk, whichever you want to call it. Brought to you by the one, the only DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy sports. We do a lot of talking about NFL, NBA, NHL, and stuff on this channel, but of course, MMA, PGA in a couple of weeks, NASCAR, all those other sports start kicking in. And we have the coaches to help you get better if you want to learn those sports. The easiest thing to do is head down into the comments section, click the DFSArmy.com link, use coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, become a VIP today. It's Paycheck Friday. You always hear me talking about Paycheck Friday. Got a little bit of extra coin in your pocket? Why not invest in your own game, become a better player today? Jump on in, say hi when you get on the inside, use code CHOP, save that little bit of money. Also, while you're down there, hit the like and subscribe button and run out to Twitter and follow me out there and use this opportunity to buy yourself a month of free DFS Army. I mean, the retweet here that I asked people to do obviously spreads the word. This DFS Army diary type post has all of my videos throughout the week, related content, related articles, and if I come up with anything else that's not just the normal day-to-day breakdown type stuff, I'm going to throw that in there weekly. We'll reset it every week. I'd love more and more retweets, spreads the word. More and more retweets brings more attention to the post, to the idea, to the concept. And I'm going to pay you and reward you for every retweet by entering you into January sweeps, which means you've got a one in whatever shot at me buying your basically full VIP experience inside DFSArmy.com. We'll do it every month. We'll keep going. Hopefully we get to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. I'm not to 2. I'm not to my number yet where I'm going to unlock that second one. So I need a few people to keep signing up, becoming VIPs, because the more people become VIPs, that gets us closer and closer to the numbers that I look for to unlock that second and third and fourth comp subscription. And that's what I want to do, guys. I just want to buy a bunch of you guys subscriptions, but of course it has to make fiscal sense for all of us, or we just leave it on one a month or whatever it is. Anyway, jump on out there, help me help you, and we'll move on with content today because I'm going to try to dive into NBA Research Station. I'm going to cover three things: the and one ratings, a little bit of value, who the value and projections are going to like today inside DFS Army, and then the consistency ratings, because I'm finding that looking for guys that consistently hit numbers 4x, 5x, 6x and stuff become valuable plays in your life. It all kind of overlaps together. None of it's rocket science, but for people that are looking for quick ways early in the morning to get your stuff up and get your ideas kind of formulated so that you can then move on into the coaching articles and the deeper dives and the game theory and things like that, you'll already have an idea of how this slate's going to play out for yourself and for most of the people that are coming in a little bit late. If you've got that extra time, it definitely helps to have this stuff in the back of your head. So as that content comes out, it triggers, ooh, if this, then that. Ooh, this guy's going to be chalky. What about that guy? Ooh, that guy was in a good spot. What about, see, like last night I took a chance and used the center whatever his name is, Puddle, whatever, in Phoenix, and it was not a recommended play by any means, but I noticed his 5x and 6x consistency numbers were up there for his position, and I knew that Vucevic was obviously going to be chalk. So I took a lineup, took it off that chalk, went down from Vucevic's price all the way down to Puddle's top possible drop score, and was able to get LeBron James and Harden and Chris Paul and whatever all in the same lineup. And it didn't win a GPP or anything, but it did okay. And the beautiful part about that was seeing where the chalk was going to go and then being able to pivot off of that chalk and completely flip-flop the roster construction on those nights that does work out. Most people can't pay up for everybody that I paid up for, at least in that fashion. And if those guys truly went off, it would have propelled me further and further up the leaderboards past all of the chalk, which is kind of the idea. Anywho, let's do the and one. We sort by descending. And we've got an NA up here in Nick Young, so we ignore him. I'm looking for overall depth of the slate. You know, it's going to be a big slate. It's going to have quite a few decent matchups on it. And one, if you're new, is a catch-all metric that weighs, home versus away splits, matchup, DVP type stuff, how he's been running his last 3 games versus his last 10 games, what his usage is, what his, just all that kind of stuff, and kind of throws it into one big catch-all metric. How good is the matchup? How likely is he to perform tonight? That's sort of what we're looking at. So KD obviously at the top is a strong rating. Anything over about an 11 we're finding is somehow just some weird magic number that happens. Now, there's a weird dip in there from about 16 to about 20, where these guys tend to be a little bit overpriced. I don't know why. I mean, I'm trying to learn as we go, picking up on patterns and talking to the creators, CG and Ben, about it, and we're kind of trying to decipher where these things come from. There's another rise again once we get over 20, from 20 to about 26, and from 26 to 30, if the guy is over, like a 12,000 price tag, like an Anthony Davis or something, or a Giannis, he tends to falter. He doesn't tend to hit 5x. The reason why, we think, is because he's in such a strong matchup that blowout becomes a possibility. And if the blowout ensues, then he gets pulled, his minutes get cut a little bit, and he can't possibly hit value at that salary. So it kind of works. These are things that, as you hopefully learn and discuss inside the Army with the coaches and whatever else, you start to become privy to these things, and you start being able to kind of feel out a slate a little bit. And how likely is it that the guy's going to hit 5x at 12K? That's 60 points. Can he do that? Can he hit 72? Can he hit 80? Whatever. And if not, then maybe he's a little bit overpriced. We got to back that down and find some guys in the 10K range or something along those lines. But you can start to feel that out. You can start to assess these numbers, look at these matchup numbers, and start to understand what they're sort of telling you. In that, well, maybe it's because his price is too high when he has such a strong matchup and it's blowout potential, like I was just telling you before. That's a little pattern we're starting to pick up on. We don't have a long data sample, to be able to really look back at it. But these are your overall guys. If I go by point guard, generally I just write down the top 5 guys on big slates. So Curry, Irvin, Walker, Westbrook, Terry Rozier is interesting. A big, strong. Now, you're going to need information here with Boston, and I haven't checked any news wires yet or anything, but I can tell you that Rozier obviously being backup to Irving, and Boston played, has maybe played a little bit recently, and if they've played a few games in short order, then maybe you're going to see a rotation increase from, say, 6, 7, 8, 8 guys to whatever Boston normally runs. Again, this is up to you basketball guys to dig into and figure out. I'm just going to kind of point you in that direction and tell you it might be worth looking into. The rotation, if that rotation expands out to, say, 11, 12 guys, then people's minutes are going to get cut. If Kyrie's numbers get cut for whatever reason, his minutes kind of get brought down because he's been playing a lot lately or whatever, then Rozier's numbers should go up. And that's probably what this little indication could be. It's telling me, go look at that. Maybe it's bullshit. Maybe I go look at it and I go, that ain't going to happen. But maybe I see that it does happen, and then all of a sudden, somebody up here rated this strong among all these higher salary guys is going to catch your eye in this research station. It's going to beg you to think about it a little bit and go ask those questions. Why is he being projected at 21 minutes? Why is he being projected at such a great matchup? What's going on? Has he been hot lately? What's going on? Those are just things to dig into. Shooting guard. That's just one of the ways you can use this tool to guide your research throughout the day. D'Angelo Russell, Klay Thompson, Bradley Beal, Tim Hardaway, CJ McCollum. Those are your top 5. These are carrying your stronger numbers. Now again, I'm going to be watching for depth of position too. I don't see anything too unrealistic just yet. Your top 5 small forwards, Durant, Kawhi, if he plays, of course, Giannis, Gordon Hayward. Loves Boston tonight, apparently. Paul George, Bogdanovich, perhaps. Now you've got yourself down here a little bit cheaper again, so it would be worth digging into. Even though that number's not an 11, the score, the price isn't too high. You still might want to do some research, see if he's due to get a minutes boost or what's causing this little bit of an increase over here. Is it an injury or something that you need to become aware of? Shallower position tonight in terms of who's in the good matchups, meaning we might need to pay up anyway, and maybe, Bogdanovich isn't even really a factor when it's all said and done. When I look at power forward, Marcus Morris, there's Boston again. And there you go, relatively inexpensive pieces in the power forward spot tonight, and not too terribly shallow a position. This one in the 5 and 6K range with no dominant salary guy, and then with no real punts in play there. It's just, that's a wide open spot. There's no real value to pay down, to pay up, whatever. You're just going to have to make your call there tonight and start looking. And we'll maybe dive into those when we look in the consistency numbers. Maybe somebody jumps up. I'm going to make a note right now, actually, to search power forward consistency. Let's sort that by position and totally take a look at it. Center, not terribly deep tonight. You got a couple of big dogs up top, Jokic and Embiid. Jarrett Allen, Cody Zeller, Enes Kanter, if you want to pay down somewhat and get off these bigs here that have the stronger matchup ratings. Although 15 isn't super, super strong even for Jokic. That's interesting. So again, we're going to have to look at the projected consistency and stuff. And we've got an interesting little simulation model that runs the slate 1,000 times and tells you how often this guy fell within that range, that 5x range, 6x range, whatever. That can also help you understand. We can only run the slate one time tonight. So on any given run, who the hell knows? But if we ran it 1,000 times, odds are this is going to happen. Odds are these are the guys that are going to have good nights. That's how you kind of play the numbers. That's one way that you can start to sort of kind of look at a guy and go, all right, that guy should be in my cash games because most of the time he's going to hit 5x. That's how you would use that situation. So now that you've got your positions, let's take that off. Come over here to value and we'll sort by descending over here. And we're going to bring the big value up top and we're going to see who runs the value on the slate. Mason Plumlee, interesting. Don't think he's going to be on a lot of rosters tonight. Mike Conley, questionable. Markieff Morris, Jaren Jackson, Josh Richardson, Shumpert. So what we're looking at here is not a lot of the guys, the big studs, are commanding. Marc Gasol, again, that's interesting. At the center spot, was not on that top 5 matchup list at an 8.8. D'Angelo Russell's the highest of the and one guys. You got to come way down here in the value. You're still at 5x, which is fine. If the guy's projected to hit 5x, that's kind of like the baseline number we use in NBA anyway that we'd like to see guys hit. Of course, we'd like to see them go higher than that, but we'd like to see them hit this for our cash games. But there's not a lot of big guys. Sometimes, like the other night, we found Embiid at 11K or whatever on Fanduel projected to hit 5.2 or 5.4. I mean, that's a crazy number for such a high salary. So that's something we're definitely, going to key on and probably just push the lock button and just run him out there. Unless you're going to get off of it, for some kind of a contrarian move or some kind of a flip-flop in your roster construction. But it doesn't look like there's a ton of guys in the value range tonight. They're all, pretty mediocre price-wise. So there's nothing that we really need to lock in or we really need to say, oh my God, I have to have Russell Westbrook tonight or I have to whatever. We can pretty much start there's no number indicating that. It doesn't mean we won't automatically go to that guy. It just means that tonight might be a little bit interesting in terms of that because usually we get some real key value pieces here that are going to just be kind of obvious and they'll point out to us that we just need to lock that guy in our lineup and move on. So if I scroll over and hit the consistency number, you got pace of play in Vegas, everything in this tool. Hit this, the sim comes in the afternoon, so I'm not probably ever going to really show that. I won't probably be doing videos that late to be able to do it. But if I sort by 5x now, consistency based on salary, and that's his salary today, not what his salary was 2 weeks ago. So if he hit 5x 2 weeks ago and his salary went up $1,000, it's not really reflected in this. It's based on the current salary, okay? So Steven Adams is hitting 5x most often. On the slate at the current salaries. Then you got some Tyler Johnson, Ed Davis, Corey Davis, whatever. You get on down here. Steph Curry hits 5x an awful lot for such a high-priced guy. Might be worthy of consideration tonight, huh? You're looking at guys that are higher priced, Oladipo this year, whatever, and you're wanting to also look for guys, in my opinion, that can also hit 6x that are showing. So I've got all these guys sorted by 5x. So I'm paying attention to all these guys that maybe over 50% of the time are hitting 5x. Now, among them, who are the guys that are hitting 6x most often? Well, Dwayne Wade, interesting. Shelvin Mack. So I'd be looking for something that would indicate Shelvin Mack's going to get a minutes boost tonight, and then he might become one of my point guards. Mitchell Robinson, Kid Gilchrist, if he plays. Dotson, 31's a little low, 29's a little low. It's good for these numbers, but it's still a little bit low. I like kind of the 33% and above. I like round numbers. These are arbitrary. 33% is an arbitrary number. But I like it when I see something above that, 35%, 37%, because I don't typically see it. Therefore, it stands out to me. Tyler Johnson tonight. Now, some of this is a season-long number. It could be back, when Dragic was sitting and he hit 6x or whatever, but he hit 6x for 4,100. Wouldn't that be nice tonight? You end up with him and Shelvin Mack, and you probably won't have a ton of people with the same lineup as you. And these guys are both indicating that when they hit 5x, oftentimes they break through that and go all the way to 6x and beyond. That will help you. That will dodge a drop score for you. Again, is this all rocket science? No. I'm pointing this stuff out to you to help give you some ideas of what to look at when you're looking through these charts, when you're looking through this research. And then you go dig a little deeper and you go figure out why. Why is this guy getting a bump? Why is this number so high today? Or why is it bigger than usual today? Let's take that, and I hate doing this, but our research station NHL is not up yet. So let me dive over and show you a little bit of strategy in NHL. And then so NBA guys, you guys can drop off. Just make sure you go hit the link, become a member, VIP, go to the CHOP, CHOP code, enter that in for 10% off discount. I'll see you when we get on the inside. We'll talk more NBA later today. NHL guys, let's move forward with you, and let's see if we can't spend another 15 so minutes on NHL. The main thing I get asked in NHL is what's the difference between a cash and a GPP lineup? And it's very, very simple. It's how much I want to concentrate all of my power on one line or with correlated players, or how much I want to spread out. And I can spread out in a couple of different ways. I can take different offenses, or if I really like an offense, like let's use Vegas for an example, I can use different lines because Alex Tuck and Riley Smith are both value plays and they serve on the power play one. They're on different lines at even strength, meaning they're not on the ice together, but they come together on the power play, and it's feasible that one could pass the puck to the other and I get both the assist and the goal in that scenario. That's spreading out my goal. If Vegas is implied to score, 3 or 4 goals tonight, then I generally the top 2 lines do the damage. So if I've got a guy on one line and a guy on the other line, I typically have access to all of the goals being scored in that game. So I'm spreading my risk. When I spread my risk and sort of alleviate some of my risk, then I'm becoming safer. My floor is coming up. Now, there's really not such a thing as a floor in hockey, but this is about the best that I can explain it. My floor comes up, and as my floor comes up, that makes my game my lineup a little bit more cash viable. And I do that in those 2 ways. I may look at a defenseman, somebody who's on the power play 1, Colin Miller. I don't like these on the third defensive pairing, but he's on the power play 1. So I would take Colin Miller, Alex Tuck, Riley Smith, boom, done. Maybe take 3 guys. If I took a 4th guy, maybe I'd include a Marchessault or a Carlson. I probably wouldn't Carlson because he's not overlapping on that power play. But I could, because I could take Smith, Carlson, Tuck, and Schmidt. And now I've got a guy skating on the top defensive pairing who's going to overlap these 2 lines a lot and be out there to give assists to the guys scoring goals or score a goal himself that came from somebody else. So I've got some overlap there. He's going to be, with the 1s and with the 2s. On the power play, he's going to be with the 2s. And if I use Carlson, he's going to be on the ice with Carlson on that second unit. And if I use Tuck and Smith, I've got 2 guys on the 1. I've got 2 guys on the 2. I've got a defenseman that overlaps both of these offenses. I've got 4 skaters that if they blow up and score 4 goals, I should have decent chunks of most of those goals. So my floor is pretty darn safe as long as Vegas doesn't get shut out tonight. But hopefully you see how I spread that out. And I make sure that I'm getting pieces of all of the goals that get scored tonight. Now, if I wanted to really focus my power, I would just take the top line. Marchessault, Riley Smith, and Carlson. Or since they're on the road, the second line, Tuck, Pacioretty, Nikin. I would take that line right there and say, anything that happens on that line tonight, hopefully they score 4 goals tonight and they all come off that second line. If they do, I am in line to win a GPP because I'm going to vault so far up there. But it's risky because if of those 4 goals, 3 of those goals come somewhere else. 2 off the top line, 1 off the third line. Maybe Ryan Reeves bangs one in, whatever. And I'm only left with, I'll look at the score on my phone and go, oh my God, they scored a lot of goals tonight. They did great. And then I'll look and be like, why are all of my dudes not factored in? Well, it's because I concentrated all of my power right here, and it was all of these other guys that did the scoring. That's a GPP move because it's much more boom or bust. I don't think that takes a lot of connecting dots to see that when I spread out and grab a defenseman and 2 guys from the top line that are on different power plays or 2 guys from different scoring lines that are on the same power play, I'm sort of correlating a little bit, but I'm really spreading out across the entire, spreading my feelers out across the entire offense to get goals that come from anywhere so that I don't get dudded. I don't get shut out. That improves my floor, which means that I can be in head-to-heads, 50-50s, and whatever else. And as other people take shots and gamble and stack and whatever else, I'm kind of going neener because I'm automatically going to be at about that halfway mark in my lineups most nights. And it's going to give me a good chance to play in cash games and play very, very strongly in cash games. I have to focus on targeting the right offenses. And then, of course, I have to spread out and cover the skaters in those offenses. And I have to be right with the offense. I mean, I can't, like I said, get shut out. Now, tonight, we can look at, so just briefly, that's your cash versus GPP stuff. Tonight, we can run through, and I went through 2.5 weeks instead of 4 weeks in 1 week or whatever. I just went through 2.5 weeks, just all or none. And you can vary this time frame up. I'm showing you this to show you. I vary my time frame up. So whatever mood I'm in the morning, there's no real system to it because honestly, all I'm looking for is who's running hot and who's giving up a lot of goals. I'm not going to run through all of the numbers with you, but I'm going to show you. Like I said, our research station is not up on DFSArmy.com yet, so I'm using other sources today. RotoGrind is free, NHL.com free, another paid one that sometimes I throw props to, Daily Fantasy Nerd, whatever. These are other sources that I carry because I have to work in the mornings, and a lot of times our guys are compiling numbers and pulling data and stuff like that, and it's not ready to go yet. In fact, in the case of our NHL guy, he works nights. So when he works nights, he can't be doing this early in the morning. He comes home, he's beat, he needs to get a couple hours sleep. He gets up and gets rolling before noon. So anywho, when I'm looking at these numbers here, it's a pretty simple chart to look at. I'm going to go click the center spot, and then I'm going to click total goals scored, or Vegas's implied team scoring. Here is where I get that. And I can see that Vegas likes Winnipeg, Washington, Edmonton, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Rangers, Detroit as my top 6 on the slate tonight. How many offenses do I have tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 teams. So about a third. Top 6 out of 16. I like to narrow it down even tighter than that. And again, that's where I'm taking my chances in cash games. But I try to stay with the high implied team totals because Vegas knows more than I do when it comes to who might be scoring. But I will kick over to NHL.com and look for the offenses that I want to verify, are they actually scoring right now? Are they facing a team that's actually giving up goals right now? Or is it something where Vegas just says, hey, it's Pittsburgh. Everybody's going to want to bet on Pittsburgh. We'll put their over, and try and kind of sucker you into betting one side of the line or the other. I want to verify that Vegas did, in fact, accurately, assess that line correctly. And I don't know more than Vegas, but it's just two ways to kind of, it's always good to have checks and balances. Let's put it that way. So these are the teams I'd be worried about. When it comes to goalie, really easy to pick a goalie. Come down here, win percentage, thanks. Lundqvist is going to be cheap and a high percentage to win tonight. It's going to be one of your cash goalies. It just is. Vegas favors the team heavily. Nobody's typically worried about Arizona, especially on the road. Cheap, under $8,000. Henrik Lundqvist, 60% chance to win. Cheap, cash goalie. Simple. Matt Murray's an interesting one because I don't trust that one. I went game log hunting that dude, and he's been awful lately. Jimmy Howard's up and down. Hellebuck, I don't know. I've seen conflicting evidence that Hellebuck or Bersoid or whatever is going to get the start, one of those two, so you're going to have to watch the news on that one. Fleury would be in play for me, but at 1,200 more than Lundqvist, I don't know. Holtby should be in play, but his win chance is not quite as strong. And at 8,900, Holtby gets on a roll. Carolina doesn't score a ton. They tend to shoot, so you might take a lot of shots, and you might end up with a nice floor for your goalie for that 8,900. Might be a little better play than Marc-Andre Fleury. Hoping that, assuming they both get the win, you might see more, and I don't know why he's projected lower, but I kind of liked Koskinen, honestly, because I'm not all that worried about Philly. And I've still got a 53% chance to win. I'm at 8,600. It's a little bit under this stuff. I don't trust some of these other guys. And if I'm going to pay up, I might go to Koskinen. I don't know that I would go all the way up to Fleury or Holtby. I just think I'm going to settle on Lundqvist. So in a lot of cases, I'm just going to lock him into our optimizer at DFSArmy.com. And that's just going to be that. I may put, about 30% or so on a Koskinen or a Fleury or somebody, and then just run it out like that. And that'd be about it. But I'm generally going to be rolling heavily on Lundqvist tonight. And I think the majority of people in this world are too. So if you had a big 20,000 person GPP that you needed to really throw a Hail Mary at, always stack Arizona. Always stack against the chalky goalie if you can figure it out. Because hockey is so volatile, the chalk implodes here more than any other sport. So if you always have a line out there where you've got a stack against the chalk goalie, man, you can really gain some leverage. Doesn't happen too often, a few times a year, but it only takes once to win a big GPP like that. All right, so now what else am I going to do? I'm going to dig into the centers. I'm going to be looking at my guys here, and I'm going to be looking for the L40, which is I do L10 and L5 when I'm in my research station. I do L40 on Nerd and L5. I want the L5 running above the L40. So McKinnon, not on my list tonight, although that's really dumb because facing St. Louis kind of sucks. They give up a lot of goals lately, and McKinnon should just honestly be worth every penny of it. So there, I might violate the rule there tonight. Connor McDavid's running a little bit hot. Edmonton's on our list. The ones that I like when I went and looked at goals versus goals allowed, and then compared it to Vegas. The Vegas list was Winnipeg, Washington, Edmonton, Colorado, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, Detroit, St. Louis, in that order. Okay. People ask all the time, what do you go down to? Three or three? Okay. I just kind of take the top 5 teams when I do that because on a slate like tonight, there are a buttload scheduled to score over 3 goals. I mean, I still want the top of the top. I don't have an arbitrary goal number that I'm looking for. That's like baseball. I don't need the over-under to be an 8 before I look at it. I just want the top 3 or 4 implied team total teams because they're matching up against the worst pitchers. It's kind of like I was talking about in the video back on Tuesday or whatever with variance and poker when I was running at a 30 BB per 100 versus a 12 BB per 100. Yeah, one is winning and one is winning just a little bit less. I didn't feel that variance when I ran in those channels because I was highly profitable every step of the way. I didn't win every, out of 10 slates or sessions, I didn't win all 10. But generally speaking, my variance month in and month out was just like nothing because my bad days were still profitable. It's not kind of like that in DFS, but because our edges are a lot smaller, and that's a discussion for another day. But with these goals scored, if I have 10 or 15 teams over a 3.0, I still want the top 5. I don't all of a sudden want 15 offenses in my player pool. I still want only the top 5. And I want it to be the best. They're all going to be great tonight. And the slate might be way wide open. And it might really make me look like an idiot. And that's fine. But generally speaking, I'm still going to stick to the top 4 or 5. On smaller slates, I narrow it down to like the top 3. But anyway, that's kind of the idea of what number I'm looking for. I just sort by it and take the top few teams. I don't care what that number is. Could be a 2.9 tonight. If nobody's scheduled to score over 3 goals tonight, that doesn't mean that I'm going to just bail on the slate and be like, well, I guess the whole slate. Yes, the whole slate's going to suck, but I'm not going to sit there going, oh, the whole slate sucks, so I don't have anybody on my list. My player pool is 0, so I'm out of here. No, I'm still going to try and take the top scoring teams because the top teams are the top teams. So looking down this list, Scheifele's on it. Larkin's on it. Kuzitsnov's on it. Aho, believe it or not, I don't trust Carolina for nothing. Nugent Hopkins, Taves, and then down here, Soderberg. Krejci's interesting. They're not in a good spot to score a lot of goals tonight necessarily. I mean, Pittsburgh does give goals up, but Krejci's running pretty hot. Eakin's fallen back below his numbers, which stinks because I like him a lot. But Nielsen's running hot too for Detroit. Detroit's on the list. Remember, Winnipeg, Washington, Edmonton, Colorado, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, Detroit, St. Louis. The teams that I'm really keying on are those that are scoring and going up against teams that are giving up goals. And those would be Winnipeg, Edmonton, Colorado. And quite honestly, I mean, I might do some Edmonton and some Vegas. Those teams are in good spots. But the one that's really, really sneaky to me right now is Chicago. Chicago, our last couple of weeks, is the 7th most scoring team in the league. And they're facing Winnipeg, who's a middle of the road defense, who can melt down. With Winnipeg being the 2nd most scoring team in the league, facing the most goals given up, in Chicago, that's obviously a smash spot for Winnipeg. But when teams get so focused on that offense, they tend to lose track of their defense. And if we've got a team that can melt down versus a team that's sneaky productive right now, you got yourself recipes for a real sneaky shootout. I wouldn't be surprised to see that game go 5-4 or something like that. I mean, it's just interesting how hockey works, but that one kind of got me. Now, Colorado and St. Louis, the other teams. I mean, my number one strategy would be to always tell you stack against St. Louis right now, stack against Chicago right now. That puts you on Colorado and Winnipeg. How the hell can you go wrong? I mean, you can go wrong because it's hockey, but how the hell can you go wrong if we ran that slate 100 times? Those guys are going to have their good nights. There's no doubt. But St. Louis and Chicago can score too. Those two games might have some sneaky shootout potential to them. But like I said, Vegas, Colorado, Winnipeg, Chicago, sneaky, and Edmonton maybe are the teams that I'm looking at. I'm going to run some GPP lineups with Chicago tonight. But those are the centermen. If I look through the wings and do the same thing, sorting by the last 40, that's not shots on goal. I want fantasy points sorted by the last 40. And I come down here and look at the last 5. Ovechkin's on the list. Washington was on the Vegas list. Rantanen and Landeskog are always at the top. I can get my Rantanen and Landeskog, my Colorado exposure, although it's expensive now, more so than it was a month ago. I can get them and then not worry about McKinnon and maybe take a different Ryan Nugent-Hopkins or Nielsen or something like that, a different center, into a different game and get myself spread out a little bit for cash games. In a GPP, man, McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog tonight are in great spots. Stack that whole top line. In fact, a lot of times that's the top line that's cash safe. You know, you might dip down a little bit. We'll get down here to the, Soderberg was a value center for Colorado. He's in a sneaky spot. So the list, though, that you're looking for with the teams that I'm focusing on, Ovechkin, Rantanen, I did put Pasternak on there because, again, I kept seeing Boston pop up there as their L5s being above their L40s. That's really interesting to me tonight. Might be a little bit more contrarian GPP move. I don't have the stones to pull that one off. But, man, that's kind of interesting to me. I don't think it would be super low owned because it is Boston. But either way. Landeskog, Patrick Kane in Chicago. Obviously, is going to be on my list because of Chicago. Draisaitl in Edmonton. Nyquist in Detroit. You want a real punt play? Where's Andrew Ghetto? Andrew Ghetto. I know where Andrew Ghetto came. He came off of the shots on goal list. Hoping. Otherwise, I'm going to look the idiot here. Let's go by last 5 and see if we can't find him in there. Svechnikov. Maybe it was when I sorted down just the teams I like. There he is. 3,500. Sitting on the line 2 with Soderberg in Colorado on the power play 2 for 3,500 facing St. Louis on the road, where we know we enjoy seeing the second line matching up against the weaker defensive units in St. Louis. That's not going to be facing our shutdown line. Our shutdown line is obviously going to be targeting the top Colorado line, trying to shut them down. So the second line is going to sneak through and get the lesser defensive units. And if Andrew Ghetto is shooting more goals or shooting more shots on goal right now than usual, then he's potentially running a little bit hot. And if his points are about the same, his fantasy production's okay. At 3,500, 6.5, 7 points gets you what you need. He's dirt cheap and affords you the opportunity to go up and stack some others. That's my sneaky value play tonight. If I go back to the L40s here and run down defensemen, Carlson, of course, Chabot's on the list, but I'm not targeting Ottawa tonight. He's not running hot either. But Chris Letang is. Pittsburgh's in an interesting spot. Targeting Winnipeg. Buffalo's running hot. There's Boston again. There's Colorado, but he's not running hot. Doesn't mean he's going to be in a bad spot. Barry probably be involved. Seabrook in the sneaky Chicago offense. Duncan Keith as well. Morrissey in Winnipeg. Nurse in Edmonton. Right? See where I'm going with all this? Scroll on down here a little bit more and let's find Duncan Keith. 15.7 points in his last 5 games versus an average of about 9 on the season. Definitely running hot. And when you see guys that are shooting more pucks than usual, those guys are typically on the list. There's a funny correlation between lots of shots and lots of goals. But either way, those are your rough lists in a player pool of who I would be focused on team-wise as well. You can always click these X's. You can do that in our research station too at DFS Army and click through and click off of these guys and only get the guys that you want to look at. Now, there's a different method that we'll talk about another time about setting up Domination Station, running these controlled stacks, showing you how to run 3- and 4-man stacks and whatnot, and really spin them up in the optimizer and run 20 lineups out there for a 20 max or 100 for a quarters event, something like that. It's a lot of fun to play with. Different technique our VIPs, we'll be obviously talking about later on this afternoon. But if that kind of stuff interests you and you want that kind of explanation and you like this type of content, you got to like and subscribe to the channel. You got to click the link. You got to become a VIP. It's very, very simple. I told you I would go to the research station. Basketball guys are gone. But I told you I'd go to the research station and look for 5X and 6X specifically at the power forward spot. Forgot to do that. I apologize. Probably going to need to click it twice because it probably timed out. Come back, honey. Come back. Listens like my dog. Scroll over here. Consistency based. Descending 5X. Ed Davis. Sabonis. Jerebko. Williams. Vonleh. Nothing too terribly sexy in that list either. But you're looking for guys that have a chance to hit, Jerebko, Sabonis are the guys that look like they have the best chance to hit the 6X tonight. So if that was your tiebreaker, you were looking for some consistency, you might take an Ed Davis as a drop candidate. You might look in here at Sabonis, Jerebko at 5X and go, okay, well, they give me the best shot of anybody, and they're in good matchups, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, but look, they also give me a bonus. I might take a guy down here if he has a much higher chance of hitting 6X because I want some floor, and the floor is okay between these, this 55 and 50 and 45%. I mean, it's not like that's that big of a difference. But if I see a spike in the 6X number, I'm going to tie break and take that guy. Because, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go all the way with it, right? That's just another way to interpret these numbers. Hopefully, you see something you like, you want to come inside, you want to talk a little bit, you want to help me with December sweep or January sweeps you're going to sign up anyway, so you get in here now and then you retweet that article and hopefully I buy your December or your January for you. But you got to go out on Twitter and retweet from there. It's been about 40 minutes. Let's go ahead and lock it up. We'll call it Friday. We'll call it a weekend. You guys, it was a light week for content today. I've been doing a lot of other stuff. What I'm working on, little tip to you, I'm working on an all-inclusive DFS glossary for the newer guys. Those of you that are newer, we're going to put that inside DFS Army. It's going to have every term in there from expected value to punt to drop score to all sorts of lingo inside, FD, DK, FD2, all the different acronyms that we're going to find and we're going to put in there in an all-inclusive thing for you. And what I'm going to do personally, because I don't do anything half-assed, I'm going to take those terms and expand on some of them in articles like, cash game. That'll be highlighted, and then you'll get linked to our cash game strategy article. And, multi-entry GPP. You might get linked to a video showing you how to download CSV files and import them into the optimizers or the sites like Fanduel or DraftKings to help you with your quarters contests or whatever. So it's going to be a bigger project. I'm starting to undertake it now. It's going to probably be evolving. Maybe the first edition or two is going to come out here shortly, but it's always going to be evolving as we find more terms, expand on more terms, create more content, create more things to link to it. Hopefully it becomes an all-inclusive place where you can go as a newer player or as an intermediate, brush up on the basics, and have the materials presented back to you where they're easy to find. That's the goal. Anyway, should be something unlike you've ever seen before inside the industry. Everybody does glossaries, but nobody's going to do them like Chopadong does them. Come back in, click the link, CHOP, C-H-O-P, get that 10% off discount, get in here, and let's become members, and let's start turning your game around today so that you don't deposit again in the near-term future anyway, and you can get your wife off your back about all the money that you're spending on all these sports that you don't know what you're talking about. Instead, come in here and learn what you're talking about so that you can go out to your wife at dinner, talk all about basketball, all about hockey, all the stuff that you know she wants to talk about, and impress her with all of your knowledge. This has been Chopadong. It's been Chop Talk DFS Diary for December 14th, Friday, Paycheck Friday. Come on in here. Love to see you. Love to hang out with you. Love to talk to you. Join the winning team, and I will see you guys on Monday. Take care.